I have called myself a socialist for as long as I have taken an interest in politics. That has never meant believing the state has all the answers, or that wealth is something to be feared. It has meant believing that a decent society is built on fairness, solidarity, and the idea that nobody should be left behind because of the circumstances into which they were born. For most of my life, voting Labour followed naturally from those beliefs. Labour was never perfect. It made mistakes. It disappointed those who expected too much and frustrated those who wanted change to come faster. But beneath the disagreements, there was always an understanding of what the party existed to do: to represent working people, to challenge inequality, and to ensure that prosperity was shared rather than concentrated in the hands of the fortunate few. That is why the Starmer years felt like such a profound rupture. Now the party has a new leader. The problem was not simply that Labour moved towards the political centre. Successful parties have always adapted to changing circumstances. The problem was that, in doing so, Labour often seemed reluctant to articulate why it existed at all. The language of fairness gave way to the language of fiscal restraint. Boldness became caution. Conviction became managerial competence. For many lifelong Labour supporters, it felt less like renewal than retreat. I never stopped believing in democratic socialism. I simply reached a point where I no longer believed Labour was prepared to argue for it. Now the party has a new leader. Andy Burnham inherits more than an electoral coalition. He inherits a sense of disappointment among many people who spent decades placing their faith in Labour, only to conclude that the party had become uncomfortable defending the principles that once defined it. Winning those people back will not be achieved through clever messaging or a rebrand. It will require something much more difficult. It will require Labour to rediscover its purpose. Burnham begins with one significant advantage. Over many years in public life, he has built a reputation for speaking with conviction rather than calculation. During the struggle for justice after Hillsborough, his willingness to stand alongside bereaved families earned respect well beyond his own party. As Mayor of Greater Manchester, his public disagreements with central government during the pandemic demonstrated a readiness to defend the communities he represented, even when doing so carried political risks. Whether one agreed with every position he took is almost beside the point. People believed he meant what he said. That quality has become surprisingly rare. If Burnham wants to reconnect with voters like me, he does not need to drag Labour dramatically to the left. Equally, he should resist the temptation to define success solely by occupying the political centre. Britain's challenges are too deep for politics that simply seeks the least controversial path. Public services remain under immense strain. The NHS continues to wrestle with growing demand and workforce shortages. Local authorities face impossible financial choices. Housing has become unaffordable for many young people who work hard yet see little prospect of owning a home. Child poverty remains a stain on one of the richest countries in the world. These are not abstract policy debates. They are questions about the kind of country we want Britain to become. Addressing them requires more than efficient management. It requires a government willing to make the argument that investment in public services is not a burden on the economy, but one of its essential foundations. That reducing inequality strengthens society rather than weakening enterprise. That markets are powerful tools but poor substitutes for democratic accountability when it comes to healthcare, transport, or social care. Above all, Labour must recover the confidence to make moral arguments again. Politics cannot simply be an exercise in balancing competing interests. It must also express values. For too long, those values have seemed muted. Many former Labour voters did not drift away because they suddenly embraced conservative economics or rejected social justice. They drifted away because they struggled to see what distinguished Labour from a cautious consensus that accepted growing inequality as an unfortunate but inevitable feature of modern Britain. Andy Burnham has an opportunity to change that, not by promising easy solutions or pretending difficult choices do not exist, but by offering a clear sense of direction, by reminding the country that economic success should be measured not only in rising GDP, but in secure jobs, affordable homes, thriving public services, and communities where opportunity is genuinely shared. The Labour Party has always been at its strongest when it combined economic competence with moral purpose. Competence alone is not enough. People want to know what a government believes in. That is why I find myself watching Andy Burnham's leadership with cautious optimism. Not because I expect miracles, nor because I imagine every policy will reflect my own views, but because leadership is about more than administration. It is about giving people confidence that politics can once again improve lives, rather than merely manage decline. Like many lifelong socialists, I never abandoned my values. I am waiting to see whether Labour has finally decided to return to them. Andy Burnham has the opportunity to prove that it has. I sincerely hope he does.